In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Chosen one, before you scroll, before you multitask, before you let this become just another piece of content, pause. Because the feeling you have carried your whole life, the one you could never fully explain, is not imagination. It is not arrogance. It is not you being too sensitive. It is the quiet evidence that your spirit has been trying to tell you the truth since you were a child. Have you noticed how you can sit in a room full of people and still feel out of place? Like you are present, but you are not truly from there. You hear the conversations that energize everyone else, yet something in you goes numb. You watch people chase what they call normal, and instead of longing for it, you feel trapped by it. And the strangest part is this: you have tried to fit in, you have tried to be reasonable, you have tried to silence that inner fire, yet it refuses to die. Why? Because what I am about to say will either offend the casual listener or awaken the chosen one. And if this message is for you, your spirit will recognize it instantly. You are not 100% human, not in the way this world defines human. Something divine has touched your origin. That is why conformity feels like a cage. That is why your soul resists certain environments, even when they look safe. That is why you cannot pretend for long without feeling like you are suffocating. If you have ever felt that witness inside, like heaven, is quietly nodding while the world is confused, let this be your sign of agreement. I am listening. I am ready to remember. Now, here is the question that changes everything. What if your difference is not a problem to fix, but a mystery to uncover? What if the very things that made people misunderstand you are the fingerprints of your assignment? Stay with me, because next we are going to open the truth, backed by sacred writings behind why you have always felt misplaced, where that otherworldly fire comes from, and how the enemy has tried to label what the divine actually designed. If you are not 100% human, then what are you? Really, I want to take you back, not to a trend, not to a theory, not to a motivational line that feels good for 5 minutes, but back to the beginning where your origin was spoken into existence before anyone ever formed an opinion about you. Sacred writings say that the divine looked into eternity and declared, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion." And even the way that sentence is framed should make you pause. The divine did not say, "Let me make." It said, "Let us make." There is intention there. There is counsel there. There is design there. And you were not created as an accident inside that design. Now, let me ask you something that goes deeper than religion. When the sacred writings say you were made in the image of the divine, what was actually meant? Because it cannot simply mean your face, your height, your personality type, or the color of your eyes. The divine is spirit. That means the image is not mainly physical. It is spiritual. It is authority. It is capacity. It is the ability to carry heaven's imprint inside an earthly body. That is why I tell you, especially when you have felt too much or out of place, you are not just flesh and blood. You are spirit first. And I am not saying that as a cute line. I am saying it because I have watched it play out in real life. I have met people who looked completely ordinary on the outside, yet when they walked into a room, the atmosphere changed. Their presence calmed panic. Their words exposed deception without them even trying. And I have had moments, myself, quiet moments, not dramatic ones, where I sensed a shift before anything happened. Like my spirit received a memo before my mind could explain it. Have you ever felt that something in you knows before the evidence arrives, and you almost feel ridiculous trying to explain it to someone who only believes what they can measure? That is because your true nature is not confined to the physical world. Your body is real. Your responsibilities are real. Your schedule is real. But you are not limited to what your eyes can see. And that is why you sense things other people dismiss. That is why you pick up on motives behind smiles. That is why you cannot fully settle into shallow conversations when your soul is craving depth. That is why your dreams do not fit neatly inside what is realistic. Your spirit keeps stretching past the ceiling of what people call possible, because heaven built you with a longing for more. And let us be honest. How many times have you tried to shrink that longing just to fit in? How many times have you told yourself, maybe I am overthinking, when deep down you were not overthinking, you were discerning? How many times have you lowered your expectations, not because the divine told you to, but because disappointment trained you to expect less? Here is what I believe, and I am saying this as someone who has watched people fight themselves for years. Your restlessness is not always anxiety. Sometimes it is a holy dissatisfaction. It is your spirit refusing to accept a life that is beneath what the divine wrote about you. One of the ancient fathers lived with that kind of inner pull. He was called out of familiarity without a full map, and yet he moved because something in him recognized the voice. Another had that same inner conflict. He tried to live in two worlds, the palace and the wilderness, the past and the calling. Another carried it while he was still a shepherd, marked but not manifested, chosen but not yet crowned. Does that sound like your life? Like you are living in between what you know and what you are becoming? Now let us go even deeper. Your very being carries something divine, not in a scientific way that turns into ego, but in a spiritual way that becomes responsibility. You carry the imprint of the Creator. You carry the breath of the divine inside you. And when I say breath, I do not mean just oxygen. I mean that sacred moment when the divine breathed into humanity, and humanity became a living soul. That means you are not a random organism with a temporary spark. You are an eternal being having a temporary experience. And that explains something painful you may have felt your whole life. The world often cannot interpret you correctly. People misread you. They assign motives you do not have. They call your depth intensity. They call your boundaries arrogance. They call your silence mystery, like it is a problem. They look at you through human eyes, but they do not know how to recognize spirit, so they label what they cannot understand. One who carried a dream too big for his brother's insecurity experienced that, and instead of celebrating him, they tried to bury him. But the dream did not die because it was not a human idea, it was a divine imprint. If you have been misunderstood, hear me clearly. Sometimes misunderstanding is confirmation, not because you are better than anyone, but because you are different in assignment. Even the one who came was misinterpreted. He was called a blasphemer, a troublemaker, a threat, when he was actually salvation standing in front of them. So if people have projected stories onto you that are not true, if they have judged you without knowing your heart, it does not automatically mean you are failing. It might mean you are carrying something they do not have language for. This is also why spiritual warfare around identity is so relentless. The enemy does not waste energy attacking what has no destiny. He works tirelessly to make you forget who you are. Because if you ever fully realize your nature, you stop living like a victim. If you ever truly remember your origin, you stop negotiating with fear. You stop shrinking to make insecure people comfortable. You stop calling bondage normal. Let me say it this way. If the enemy can confuse your identity, he can control your decisions. He can keep you busy, distracted, addicted to approval, chained to comparison. But the moment you remember you were made in the divine image, something changes in your posture. You no longer live under the world's rules as if they are final. You begin to walk in dominion, the way the ancient writings described. Not dominion to dominate people, but dominion over fear, over cycles, over the atmosphere in your home, over the patterns that tried to repeat in your bloodline. Do you understand what happens when a chosen one stops forgetting? I have watched it happen. Someone who used to be anxious becomes steady, not because life got easier, but because their spirit got anchored. Someone who used to tolerate disrespect starts choosing peace. Someone who used to panic at delay begins to see delay as preparation. That is not personality. That is authority awakening. And yes, faith shifts realities. Not because you are playing with energy, not because you are trying to manipulate outcomes, but because you are aligning with heaven. The one who came spoke to storms. He spoke to sickness. He spoke to dead things. And he was not doing it to show off. He was demonstrating what it looks like when the image of the divine operates in the earth. And then he turns around and tells his followers to pray, to believe, to ask, to seek, to knock. He teaches them that their words matter because their spirit is alive. So I want you to consider this. What have you been tolerating that you were actually created to confront? What have you been calling just my life that the divine has been calling beneath your calling? What would change if you stopped introducing yourself by your trauma and started introducing yourself by your assignment? You are chosen. You are set apart, not for ego, not for superiority, but for purpose, for responsibility, for a mission that requires you to be awake. And once you embrace this truth, you do not go back to sleep easily. Once you see yourself as spirit wrapped in flesh, an eternal being carrying the divine imprint, mediocrity starts feeling like suffocation. Small thinking starts feeling like a prison. Now I want to speak as someone who cares about the integrity of this message. If you support this work, I do not see it as just giving. I see it the way the one who came framed honor and sacrifice when he watched the widow give. He pointed out what others missed, the heart behind it. In a world that measures value by size and spotlight, the divine measures by sincerity. So thank you to those who stand with us, whether through sharing, praying, encouraging, or supporting. I do not take it lightly. I have seen how the divine uses small acts of faithfulness to create a ripple that outlives a moment. And if this message is touching something deep in you, do not rush past that. Stay with it for a moment. Let it land where it is trying to land. If you are still here, it is because your spirit recognizes this. Take one step of agreement right now. Let this be your declaration that you are done living beneath your identity. And if you have been misunderstood, if you have been feeling that restlessness, if you have been sensing there is more, let it be known what part of this felt like it was describing your life. You are not alone, because this is not just information. This is remembrance. And when you remember who you are, you do not just watch messages like this. You start walking differently the moment this ends. Now let us go deeper, because this is where the line gets drawn quietly, invisibly, but unmistakably. In the good news according to John, the one who came makes a statement that still confronts the way humans try to define themselves. He prays for his followers and says in plain words that they are not of the world just as he is not of the world. And when I first sat with that truth, not as a slogan, but as a reality, it did something to me. It did not just sound spiritual. It sounded like identity. It sounded like a verdict. It sounded like the one who came was naming what so many of the chosen ones feel but rarely say out loud. So let me slow down and let it land where it needs to land. Not of the world. Who was he talking about? Not celebrities, not the powerful, not people who look holy. He was speaking about his own, those who belong to him, those who would carry his message, those who would be sent into the world without being swallowed by it. That means you can physically live here, work here, pay bills here, and still not belong to the spirit of this place. You can be on earth without being owned by it, and that creates a divide that most people do not want to admit exists. Because yes, there are two kinds of people walking around every day. One group is rooted completely in what is temporary. Their minds are trained by systems. Their desires are programmed by trends. Their decisions are driven by what they can see, hear, touch, and prove. They chase what fades. They build their life on applause, appearances, and outcomes. They are not evil for it. It is simply what happens when someone's entire world is the world. But the other group, the one who came described, move differently. Their life does not begin and end with what is visible. Their conscience is louder than the crowd. Their spirit responds to a frequency that the world cannot decode. Their hunger does not match what everyone else is hungry for. And if you are the chosen one, you have probably felt that tension your whole life. Have you ever looked around at what excites everyone else and thought, why does that not satisfy me? Have you ever tried to celebrate what others celebrate, only to feel empty right after? Have you ever wondered why your spirit gets heavy when you are surrounded by things that are supposed to be normal? I have sat with people who could not explain why they felt restless, even when their life looked fine on paper. And I have lived that too. Moments where everything was okay, but something in me refused to call it peace. Not because I was ungrateful, but because I could feel there was more. That is often the experience of a chosen one. You cannot be fully drugged by distraction. You cannot be fully satisfied by what expires, because your body may have been born on earth, but your spirit carries a different origin, divine intention, heaven-breathed purpose, eternal assignment. Sacred writings show us the divine speaking to one and saying, I knew you before I formed you in the womb, setting you apart before you ever took a breath. That is not poetic language. That is a window into how heaven sees you. Your existence was not an accident that happened to the divine. It was a plan spoken into time. And this is why you often feel like a stranger in your own land. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. You can be in a room full of laughter and still feel like you are observing instead of belonging. You can participate in the world's routines while feeling deep down like you are only visiting. And the world tends to punish what it cannot categorize. It pushes back on what will not be controlled. That is why being not of this world becomes both your greatest strength and your greatest challenge. It is your strength because you do not have to bow to the world's fear. You do not have to worship its approval. You do not have to define success the way everyone else defines it. But it is also your challenge because you are constantly tempted to perform, to blend, to soften your edges, to shrink your calling so you will not stand out. And hear me, this is where many chosen ones lose years, trying to be accepted by a system that was never designed to celebrate them. You were never meant to fit in. You were never meant to disappear into the crowd. You were set apart, called, chosen, sealed, not to look strange, but to stay clean, not to be isolated, but to be consecrated. And I have seen what happens when a chosen one keeps trying to force themselves into a mold they were never created for. They start feeling exhausted, confused, and spiritually dry, not because the divine left them, but because they keep abandoning themselves. So stop measuring your worth by the world's reaction. Stop begging for validation from a place that is not your home. Stop shrinking your convictions to keep shallow relationships. There is a peace that comes when you finally accept, I do not belong to this system, and that is not a flaw. And yes, the one who came also makes it clear that the separation will not always be invisible. The day is coming when what is mixed will be divided, when what belongs to him will be gathered to him. That reality is not meant to create panic. It is meant to create clarity. If your spirit knows you belong to him, then live like it. Now let me give you a picture that makes this undeniable. Imagine a lion walking down a city street, not a cartoon lion, a real lion. Weight, presence, authority. That lion does not blend into traffic. It does not fit into sidewalks and streetlights. Everyone notices, and not everyone responds with honor. Some people panic. Some people call for help. Some people try to capture it, tranquilize it, cage it, because what they cannot control, they try to contain. Chosen one, that is exactly what happens when you carry spiritual authority in a world that prefers spiritual numbness. This is why you face resistance. This is why you get misunderstood. This is why you can do the right thing and still be rejected. This is why no matter how hard you try to just be normal, something keeps exposing your difference. It is not always because you are doing something wrong. Sometimes it is because you are refusing to become something false. The world recognizes you are different, even when it cannot explain why. Your light irritates what people are trying to hide. Your integrity threatens systems built on compromise. Your discernment disrupts environments that survive on deception. And because of that, the pressure comes, not to destroy you physically, but to reshape you emotionally, to make you doubt yourself, to make you question your calling, to make you trade your raw for approval. But do not fall for it, because the rejection you have experienced is not automatically a curse. Sometimes it is confirmation. Sometimes it is proof that your spirit is not for sale. One was rejected before he was promoted. Another was overlooked before he was crowned. The one who came was resisted because light always provokes darkness. The world does not attack what does not threaten it. So if you have been resisted, it does not mean you are worthless. It may mean you are carrying something priceless. And let me speak from the heart, as someone who has watched chosen ones suffer under the wrong interpretation. You are not struggling because you are weak. Many times you are struggling because you are powerful, and you do not fully know how to steward it yet. You are not suffering because you are lost. Sometimes you are suffering because you have been found, and the enemy does not want you stable in your identity. That is why the pressure intensifies right before awakening. That is why the attacks get louder right before clarity. That is why the temptation to conform peaks right before breakthrough. So here is the real question. Chosen one, I want you to sit with it in your spirit, not just answer it quickly. When the world tries to put you in a cage, what part of you reaches for the lock? Will you rise into who the divine says you are, even if it costs you comfort? Will you embrace your calling, even if it makes you stand out? Will you walk as the lion you were created to be? Not arrogant, not reckless, but uncaged, unashamed, and aligned. And if you felt that stranger feeling your whole life, if you have carried rejection you could not explain, if you have been pressured to shrink, speak what you have been experiencing. Not a perfect speech, just the truth. Because when chosen ones speak, it does not only release emotion, it breaks isolation. Now that you are starting to understand you are not of this world, the real question becomes painfully practical. How do you live in a world you do not spiritually belong to without losing yourself? Because you still have responsibilities, you still have family dynamics, you still have bills, deadlines, expectations, and people who look at your life through a completely different lens. And I have learned this the hard way. If you do not decide who you are early, the world will gladly assign you an identity that makes you easier to manage. So let me begin with the first instruction that protects your spirit. 1. Stop trying to fit in. I am saying that with love, but also with urgency, because fitting in has a hidden cost. It slowly trains you to betray your own design. You were not created to blend into the crowd like background noise. You were made to stand out, not for attention, but for assignment. There is a difference. Some people stand out because they crave applause. The chosen ones stand out because the light on them exposes what is hidden. That is why even when you try to keep your head down, you still get noticed. Even when you try to be quiet, your presence still speaks. Have you ever wondered why you can do the same thing others do, but you get judged more harshly? Why you can be sincere, but people still assume you have an agenda? Why you can be kind, but someone still calls you too intense or too different? That is not always about you doing something wrong. Sometimes it is simply because what is on you makes people uncomfortable, and I need you to hear this clearly. Stop seeking validation from people who were never meant to understand you. There are some minds you cannot convince, because they are not interested in truth, they are interested in control. The world struggles to accept what it cannot manage. It tends to resist what it cannot label, and it especially resists those who carry light because light does something dangerous to darkness. It reveals. The one who came said it plainly. He explains that if you belong to the world would love you as its own. But because you do not belong to it, it will hate you. That is not a curse line. It is a clarity line. It is removing confusion. He is telling you ahead of time, do not interpret resistance as failure. Do not interpret dislike as proof you are off track. And I have seen this play out in real life. I have watched people with integrity walk into corrupt environments and instantly become targets without saying a word. I have watched someone refuse to gossip, refuse to cheat, refuse to play games, and suddenly they are called cold, proud, or hard to work with. Why? Because their presence exposes what others are trying to normalize. The system does not always attack sin. Sometimes it attacks holiness, because holiness threatens the comfort of compromise. So instead of chasing approval, embrace your difference. Not with arrogance, but with grounded confidence. Not with bitterness, but with peace. Because your separation is not proof that you are strange. It is proof you belong to something greater. Let me say it to you the way I would say it to someone I care about deeply. You will never be free while you are addicted to being understood by everybody. Some people are assigned to misunderstand you. And when you finally accept that, you stop performing. You stop shrinking. You stop editing yourself into a version that feels safe for other people. And here is a question that might hit your spirit. What part of you have you been muting just to keep access to rooms the divine never called you to stay in? Because when you are chosen, fitting in can become a trap dressed like peace. Walk in confidence. Your difference is not your problem. It is your proof. 2. Guard your spirit. And I do not mean that in a paranoid way. I mean it in the way a person guards something priceless because they finally understand its value. Because the world is not neutral. It will try to corrupt you slowly, not always through obvious evil, but through constant exposure. Little compromises, little entertainments, little voices that keep repeating the same message until you start believing it. I have watched this happen to people with real fire. They did not lose their calling overnight. They just got tired, they got busy, they got overstimulated, they started feeding their flesh more than their spirit. And one day they woke up and could not recognize themselves. Have you ever felt your fire getting dull? Not because you stopped loving the divine, but because life got loud. Have you ever noticed how you can be strong for months, then suddenly one season of distraction makes you feel spiritually numb? That is not you being weak. That is you living in a world that constantly tries to rewrite your appetite. And the enemy rarely announces himself with a warning label. He comes dressed like relief, like entertainment, like just one more scroll, like you deserve this, like it is not that deep. But it is that deep, because your spirit is sensitive, and sensitivity is power when it is protected, yet it becomes pain when it is exposed. That is why sacred writings do not say, guard your schedule. They say, guard your heart, your inner life, your spirit. Proverbs tells us to guard the heart, because everything you do flows from it. Not some things, not religious things, everything. Your decisions, your reactions, your discernment, your peace, your confidence, your stamina, your life flows from the condition of your inner world. This is something I have learned personally. You cannot keep pouring pure water from a contaminated well, and many chosen ones are trying to live powerful lives, while their inner world is being polluted daily by what they watch, what they listen to, what they keep laughing at, what they keep tolerating, who they keep allowing access to their mind. So yes, be mindful of what you allow into your heart. What are you consuming when no one is watching? What kind of voices are shaping your beliefs when you are tired? What kind of music is feeding your emotions? What kind of content is training your mind to crave chaos, lust, anger, comparison, or fear? Because whatever enters consistently eventually builds a home. And here is the part that many people do not want to hear. Not everything that is permissible is beneficial. There are things you can do that will still dim your spirit. There are conversations you can entertain that will still drain your oil. There are friendships you can keep that will still sabotage your clarity. Just because something is not illegal does not mean it is safe for your calling. One understood this in a foreign land. He lived in a corrupt system without letting the system live inside him. He decided ahead of time that he would not be defiled, not because he was trying to be superior, but because he knew what was at stake. And look what happened. His discernment increased, his favor increased, his authority increased. The same environment that was designed to absorb him ended up elevating him. That is your blueprint. Live here, but do not let here live in you. So guard your spirit like it is your destiny, because it is. Guard your eye gates, guard your ear gates, guard your atmosphere, guard your private thought life. Guard what you laugh at, guard what you normalize. Guard what you keep calling not a big deal, because that is usually where spiritual erosion starts. And let me ask you something that might help you check your alignment right now. What is currently feeding you, peace or pollution? What in your daily routine strengthens your spirit, and what quietly weakens it? When chosen ones speak honestly, it does not only help them, it gives somebody else permission to guard their own heart too. 3. Speak with authority. Not with arrogance, not with noise, but with the kind of steady authority that comes from knowing who you are and whose you are. Because your words are not just sound, your words are seeds. And whether people realize it or not, you are planting something every time you open your mouth. I have watched this for years. People do not only live in the circumstances they experience, they often end up living inside the language they repeat, and I have had to correct myself too. There were seasons when I did not even notice how often I was agreeing with defeat, calling it being realistic. I thought I was being careful, but what I was really doing was training my spirit to expect collapse. So let me say it the way you need to hear it. Stop speaking weakness as if it is humility. Stop speaking defeat as if it is wisdom. Stop making peace with what the divine is trying to break. Sacred writings are blunt about this. Proverbs tells us that death and life are in the power of the tongue. That is not poetry. That is a spiritual law. Your mouth is not only for expressing emotions, it is for releasing direction. Your voice carries weight. Not because you are perfect, but because you carry the divine image, and the divine creates with words. In the beginning, darkness was not wrestled into submission. It was spoken to. Let there be light, and light obeyed. And when you were made in that likeness, part of what you inherited was this: your declarations are not decorations, they are commands. Have you noticed how quickly your atmosphere shifts when you keep saying, "Nothing ever works out for me"? Or when you keep repeating, "I am tired, I am stuck, I cannot"? Even if those feelings are real, repeating them like identity turns them into a ceiling. The mind starts building a house for the very thing the mouth keeps announcing. But when you speak faith, something in you stands up. If you speak fear, you will start living as if fear is your ruler. Fear becomes the lens you look through, the filter you decide through, the chains you carry into every opportunity. But if you speak faith, true faith, not denial, your spirit begins to align with heaven's perspective. You begin walking like someone who expects the divine to move. This is why the one who came did not just think miracles. He spoke. He told storms to be still. He told a paralyzed man to rise. He spoke to a fig tree and it withered. And then he looked at his followers and taught them to pray with boldness. He was not teaching them a religious routine. He was teaching them how to exercise authority. So, when I say speak with authority, I am not telling you to pretend. I am telling you to refuse agreement with defeat. There is a difference between acknowledging a battle and confessing a loss. There is a difference between saying, I am under pressure, and saying, I am finished. There is a difference between saying, this hurts, and saying, this will destroy me. One is honesty, the other is partnership with despair, and your voice is not a toy, your voice is a weapon. A weapon does not always feel emotional. A weapon is used deliberately. You do not wait until you feel strong to speak strong. You speak strong until your feelings learn to obey your spirit. So start speaking like someone who is being led, not like someone who is being hunted. Start declaring what has been declared, even if your eyes have not caught up yet. This is what faith does. Faith announces the outcome before the evidence shows up. When one stood in the valley of dry bones, the divine did not ask him to analyze how dead they were. He asked him to prophesy, to speak, and when he spoke, breath entered what was lifeless. That story is not just history, it is a pattern. The miracle often follows the mouth. Let me ask you something that might expose what you have been building. When pressure hits, what words come out of you first? Panic or promise? Do you speak like a survivor or like one who belongs? Do you speak like someone abandoned or like someone appointed? Because if you continually speak fear, your life will start orbiting fear. But if you speak faith, you begin walking in faith, even while you are still shaking, even while you are still learning, even while the door has not opened yet. So yes, declare victory before you see it. Not because you are ignoring reality, but because you are declaring a higher reality, the one heaven already wrote. And if you are willing, declare one sentence over your life in this season. Keep it simple, keep it personal, keep it real. When chosen ones declare together, atmospheres do not stay the same. 4. Walk by faith, not by sight. And this is where your true power begins to separate you from the world, because the world moves only when it sees proof. But you are called to move when the divine gives revelation. Let me tell you what I have learned, both from sacred writings and from watching real lives unfold. Sight is loud, but it is not always truthful. Sight reports the moment. Faith reads the meaning behind the moment. Sight shows you the locked door. Faith remembers who holds the keys. Sight says you do not have enough. Faith says my source supplies. Sight says it is too late. Faith says the source is not limited by time, and that is why it is said so plainly. We walk by faith, not by sight. It is not an inspirational phrase you put on a wall. It is a survival code for the chosen ones. Because if you wait until everything looks safe, you will stay stuck in the same place for years. I have seen it happen. People keep saying, I will move when I have proof. I will obey when I am sure. I will start when I feel confident. But the truth is, confidence often comes after obedience, not before it. Some doors do not open until your feet start moving. Some confirmations do not arrive until you take the first step. The sea did not split while the people stayed parked in fear. They had to move forward with water in front of them and an enemy behind them. And then a way was made where there was no way. Have you ever felt like the divine was asking you to move while your circumstances were still arguing with you? That is what faith feels like. Faith is not pretending nothing is wrong. Faith is refusing to let what is wrong become your ruler. The world is trained to rely on sight, on data, on trends, on opinions, on what is realistic. But you are called to rely on revelation, which means the divine can speak one sentence into your spirit that outweighs 1,000 visible reasons to stop. One built an ark when there was no rain in sight. Another left home without a full map. Another stepped onto water while the wind was still roaring. None of that made sense to the eyes, but it made sense to the voice. And this is where I want to be honest. Faith will often make you look foolish to people who only respect evidence. They will call you impulsive. They will call you naive. They will call you too spiritual. But they were not there when the divine spoke to you. They did not feel what you felt in your spirit. They did not carry what you carry. They do not know the private confirmations you have received in prayer, in tears, in silence, in that moment when your heart burned with certainty, even though your life still looked the same. So here is the shift you need. Stop waiting for physical proof before you move. Stop demanding that the divine show you the whole staircase when you are being asked to step on the first stair. When the people were led through the wilderness, they were not given a monthly plan. They were given daily guidance. Cloud by day, fire by night. That is how the divine trains chosen ones, not to control the future, but to trust the guide. Faith is knowing that even when nothing makes sense, the divine is still in control. Faith is trusting the character when you cannot trace the hand. Faith is stepping forward when the path is unclear, because you know the one who called you does not lie. And let me speak to the fear part, because fear is the loudest voice when you are about to obey. Fear tells you to freeze. Fear tells you to wait until you feel ready. Fear tells you to keep collecting information until you run out of courage. But faith moves while your hands are still trembling. Faith moves while your stomach is tight. Faith moves while your mind is asking questions, because faith is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to obey the divine in the presence of fear. Let me ask you this in a way that might reveal where you are right now. What step have you been delaying because you are demanding certainty that was never promised to give up front? And what if the very clarity you are praying for is on the other side of your obedience? The enemy does not always stop you with sin. Sometimes he stops you with hesitation, with analysis, with perfectionism, with one more sign. But if the divine has been speaking to you, if that holy restlessness is stirring again, this is your reminder. You do not need the whole path to take the next step. Walk by faith, not by sight. And if you are in a season where you are trying to obey while you cannot see the outcome yet, let it be known what step you are being asked to take. You might be surprised how many chosen ones are standing at the same edge, needing the same courage. 5. Stay connected to the source. Because your strength was never designed to come from this world, and that is why you feel it so sharply when you try to live on worldly fuel. Let me say it in a way that is honest. The world can entertain you, compliment you, distract you, and even pay you, but it cannot sustain you. It can give you adrenaline, but not endurance. It can give you attention, but not anchoring. And if you stay disconnected from the source for too long, it does not only affect your mood, it starts affecting your identity. You begin to feel powerless, empty, and strangely lost, even when your life looks busy and productive. I have seen that pattern so many times, and I have felt it too. There are seasons when everything is moving externally. Messages, notifications, responsibilities, people needing you. Yet inside you, feel like your spirit is running on fumes. That emptiness is not random. It is often your soul sending a signal that you have been trying to function without the flow. Because the key to living victoriously is not trying harder, it is remaining. The one who came did not say, "Try your best without me." He said something that is both humbling and liberating. "Apart from me, you can do nothing." He explains it with the image of a vine and branches. A branch does not produce fruit by straining. It produces fruit by staying connected. The moment it disconnects, it dries out slowly at first, then completely. And that is why you can be gifted and still feel weak when you are not connected. You can be talented and still feel empty when you are not connected. You can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely when you are not connected. So staying connected to the source is not religious routine. It is spiritual survival. And it looks practical. It means you spend time in prayer, not as performance, but as oxygen. Not just talking to the divine, but letting recalibration happen. Letting anxiety be pulled out of your chest. Letting mental noise be replaced with peace. Sometimes prayer is not long. Sometimes it is a quiet moment where,